Good afternoon, friends. Thank you very much for coming today for this interaction. I have two announcements to make, and then we will. I also have with me Joint Secretary South, Mr. Sanjay Bhattacharya, who will brief you all on one of the announcements that I have to make. So let me make the two announcements, and then we will proceed further. The first announcement that I have to make is regarding the visit of Mr. Dmitry Rogozin, the Deputy Prime Minister of the Russian Federation, who will be here from the 13th to the 15th of this month. Mr. Rogozin is primarily here for the meeting of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technological and Cultural Cooperation. This is the 18th meeting of, this is the 18th session of the Indo-Russian Intergovernmental Commission. The Intergovernmental Commission is a vital pillar of the special and privileged partnership between India and Russia. It includes a wide spectrum of representatives from various ministries and agencies, and it integrates inputs from 6 working groups. For those of you who are interested, these working groups relate to economic and trade cooperation, energy and energy efficiency, tourism and culture, science and technology, information technology, and modernization and industrial cooperation. The outcomes of this session will feed into the annual summit between India and Russia, for which President Putin is expected to visit India later during the year. During his stay in New Delhi, Mr. Rogozin will also call on the Prime Minister, apart from his bilateral meetings with the External Affairs Minister. In addition to this, I have another announcement, and that relates to the state visit of the Prime Minister of Australia to India. Honorable Miss Julia Gillard will pay a state visit to India from 15th of November to the 17th at the invitation of the Prime Minister of India. Sorry, my apologies, 15th to 17th October. During her visit, she will have bilateral discussions with the Prime Minister. She will also call on the President. The External Affairs Minister will call on her. So will the Leader of the Opposition and the Chairman of the UPA. The visit of the Prime Minister of Australia will lead to strengthening of cooperative relations between the two countries and will provide a further impetus for the future development of our strategic partnership. I have here with me Mr. Sanjay Bhattacharya, who is Joint Secretary South, who also deals with Australia, and I'll request him to provide you a briefing on Australia, and then the floor is open for questions on Australia or on anything else that you would like us to answer. So with that, I hand over to Sanjay to speak to you all on the forthcoming visit of the Prime Minister of Australia.
Thank you, Alfred. It's nice being here, lots of old friends. As has just been announced, the Australian Prime Minister, Ms. Julia Gillard, will be on her first visit to India as the Prime Minister from the 15th to the 17th of October. Our Prime Minister has met with Prime Minister Gillard on several occasions in the recent past, in Los Cabos at the G20 summit a few months ago, also in Seoul at the Nuclear Security Summit in March 2012, in Bali at the EAS summit last year, and in September of 2009 when she had visited India as the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education. During her visit, she will have talks with the Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. She will also call on the President, as the spokesman has already mentioned, and meet with the External Affairs Minister, Leader of Opposition, and the Chairman of UPA. These meetings will take place on the 17th of October. A number of memorandum of understanding are expected to be concluded, and we hope that we would be able to make a few announcements on new initiatives. Our bilateral relations have made rapid strides in strengthening cooperation in the fields of trade, investment, energy, mining, science and technology, information technology, education, and defense cooperation. There have been exchanges of high-level visits in each of these areas and establishment of institutional structures in these sectors. Our ties were elevated to the level of a strategic partnership during the visit of Prime Minister Kevin Rudd to India in November of 2009. Australia assumed significance in our external engagement in overcoming our supply side constraints. We obtained resources, education facilities, and skills upgradation. Australia is a major source of mineral resources for the Indian economy and our development efforts, particularly in coal, gold, copper, also in diamonds and zinc. There are about 36,000 Indian students who are currently studying in Australia. We're also working with various Australian institutes in promoting skill training within India. In addition, there are about 450,000 Indians who have made Australia their home, and these overseas Indians contribute richly to the economic and social fabric of that country. In fact, the Indian community in Australia is playing a growing role in acting as a bridge between the two countries. The India-Australia cooperation in the field of education and training is based on an umbrella agreement in the form of an education exchange program, which was concluded in October of 2003. For our science and technology cooperation, we have a 5-year strategic research fund which oversees a wide range of cooperative activities. Our trade in goods has grown rapidly and currently stands at about $17.4 billion in 2011-12. Our imports, as I mentioned earlier, are mainly of coal, gold, and copper, and are almost $15 billion, while our exports are just under $2.4 billion. We also have a fairly sizable trade in services. Indian investments in Australia, particularly in the mineral sector, have been growing rapidly, and about $11 billion were approved last year. About $450 million of Australian investments are currently placed in India. We are negotiating for a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, which once concluded would enhance trade and investment flows, diversify trade in goods and services, and also address the imbalance in the trade. We have a bilateral CEOs forum, which works to enhance business relations between the two countries. This is led by Mr. Naveen Jindal on the Indian side and Mr. Lindsay Fox on the Australian. We have a joint working group on energy and minerals, which was established way back in 1999. There are different subgroups for the different areas, and they've been working to expand our relationship in the energy and resource sector. We are also partners in the fight against international terrorism and have been discussing terrorism-related issues under the umbrella of the senior officials talks, which is the foreign ministry talks, the strategic dialogue, and the joint working group on counterterrorism. On the defense side, we have an MOU on defense cooperation, which was concluded in 2006, and we have exchanges at the service level. India and Australia have strengthened collaboration on many issues in multilateral fora, such as in the G20, the East Asia Summit, in the various ASEAN processes, and in the IOR-ARC. In fact, Australia will take over the chair of IOR-ARC from us next year, and Australia will also assume the chair of G20 in 2014. Australia has indicated support for India's candidature for a permanent seat in the expanded UN Security Council. We see Prime Minister Gillard's visit as an opportunity to strengthen our strategy. Thank you.
We will open the floor for questions. You could begin with the questions related to what Mr. Bhattacharya has said, and then anything else. So let's begin with questions related to Australia. Please speak into the mic because we are having problems in recording and in when we transcribe it. So please hold on till the mic is provided. Yes, Ranjit.
During Prime Minister's visit to India, the bilateral nuclear cooperation agreement is on the table.
As you would probably have come across in the media, the Australian Labour Party under Prime Minister Gillard had reversed the earlier policy and had agreed to consider the export of uranium to India under certain conditions. This matter was then to be taken up by the Australian government, and so we expect that the Australian government will take this process further.
Yes, Vijay, that's fine.
Sanjay, the Labour Party decision which you talked of took place in December 2011, 10 months ago now. What is the status of the negotiations between India and Australia over the nuclear deal? And when is it going to formally start? And what is the timeline for finish?
Obviously, the negotiations will commence once the government decision has been taken.
I think you'll have to wait for the outcomes of the visit. We can't prejudge those outcomes. Yes, Archis.
For one, Australian media, there have been quite a few reports that the issue will be on table. The Australian PM and the new Prime Minister would be discussing. Would you say that's a correct assessment? That would at least save us the trouble of rehashing Australian media.
We have seen the Australian media reports as well. We are aware that the government is looking at this issue. We will be in a position to let you know as to what the government steps are once they're conveyed to us.
Well, let me just add to it. The last time there was a formal interaction on this was between External Affairs Minister and Mr. Bob Carr in Phnom Penh. Some of you were there. At that stage, Mr. Bob Carr, the Foreign Affairs Minister of Australia, did indicate that they were still working out their internal processes. Once they communicate that their internal processes are complete, which you seem to be indicating based on what reports are coming, once they intimate that to us, then the formal negotiations will start. But at this stage, that's where it rests, and we've told you what was the last formal communication and discussion on this. Yes, Manish.
In the last discussion on the issue, on the civil nuclear issue, did Australia insist on or ask for additional safeguards on top of the usual ones?
We haven't launched the formal discussions on that. All the Australian Foreign Minister indicated to the External Affairs Minister was that they were still in the process of, and this was a few months ago during the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, and he mentioned that they are in the process of completing their internal processes. So at this stage, anything else would be premature because we haven't even launched the formal negotiations on that. Yes.
Well, are we supporting Australia for the non-permanent security?
Please don't expect us to tell you who we will vote for in an election which is by secret ballot. Anyone else? No, only one question per person. On one question per person. Yes, Mr. Venkatnarayan.
Sanjay, you gave some figures, I was not very sure. Is it $14 billion our companies have invested in Australia?
$11 billion is the amount that has been approved for investments in Australia.
Okay. And
Almost the same.
And last time Julia Gillard was here, there were some attacks on Indian students in Australia. I think things have died down a little bit, and some people involved in that have been punished and so on. The flow seems to have resumed. More and more Indian students are going back to Australia. Is that a correct impression?
Well, it's like this, that there were several incidents involving violence against Indian students a couple of years ago. And the Australian government did take action on the security front. It also overhauled the immigration program that it ran. And also what it did was conduct an in-depth scrutiny of its own colleges. Since then, the number of attacks have declined very dramatically, sharply. in recent times, owing to a large extent to the remedial measures that were taken by the Australian authorities and the police. One must mention, of course, that the problem has not entirely gone away, and therefore it is necessary for us to continue vigilance and pay attention to this issue. But we are pleased with the cooperation that we have received from the Australian side. As regards numbers, the numbers are about 36,000 at the moment, whereas at the peak they were about close to 48,000.
Yes, Nas.
As the figures given by you tell, we have an adverse trade balance with Australia. So will there be something on the table when we price is it something which exports can be increased to Australia? Will this issue come up with the Prime Minister?
You are very true, correct in that there is an adverse trade balance, both in goods as well as in services. And so this is an issue that we need to address. But I think we should look at it in the totality of the development, because what Australian imports into India do is essentially raw materials which feed into our energy and resource requirements. So they are part of our development exercise. So in other words, every Australian export into India, our imports from Australia, are actually inputs for our development process. So in that case, I think you would understand the role that they play. However, we would wish to correct this and diversify the trade basket. And it's for exactly for that reason that we are engaged in the CICA negotiations with the Australians. The next round is going to take place next month. Those negotiations are ongoing. And as CICA generally does, it not only expands trade and provides opportunities for diversification, we expect that this would also bring about a better balance in the trade figures.
Anyone else on Australia? Otherwise, we move to the other issues. Yes, Rajiv, now your question on the other issues.
This is on IRIGC. Defense Minister of Russia was supposed to come on 4th. He came eventually on the 10th. The reason given was that President Putin required him there. The fact is that on 4th, General Kenny was there. He was hosting General Kenny actually. So what's your take on that? Second thing, what are the major talking points when this, the IRGC is on?
First of all, I don't think we have any reason to doubt what the Russians have themselves put out. Since then, the defense minister has been here. He has met our defense minister, and there's much water thrown under the bridge. So let's not go back to an issue of speculation which was there some time ago. As regards what will be the areas of discussion, I think I've listed them, but I'll list them again. It's all aspects of economic and trade cooperation. For those of you who are interested, our trade this year has expanded, I think, about 38% compared to last year. As you're aware, perhaps our goal is to double in fact, to have a trade of about 20 billion by 2015, 20 billion US dollars. At this stage, last year we were somewhere around 8.8 billion. This year, in the first 6 months, it was a little above 6 billion US dollars. So there's been an increase. Again, so that will be a major area of discussion. The entire expanse of energy issues, the hydrocarbons, will be areas of discussion. Science and technology, we have a robust exchange between our Department of Science and Technology and the concerned Russian agencies. So these will all be areas. There will also be sub-areas relating to banking. There are areas relating to civil aviation, and a whole host of areas. And if you would like further details, I will share them with you. Yes, Ms. Mandirnarayan.
I'll put two things. That ruble and rupee used to be a huge controversy. Has it been sorted with the Russians by now?
This is also
Yeah. And the Tamil MPs from Sri Lanka scheduled to meet Mr. Krishna this noon and the PM this evening. Are you going to be saying anything about that?
You can ask me now. Why should we wait till then? Yes, they met the External Affairs Minister at around 12 o'clock. The meeting was for about an hour. There were 7 of them. It was led by Mr. Sambandhan. This visit, as you know, is at the invitation of the External Affairs Minister. It was to basically understand and assess their perception of where they stand in the current impasse in the political process in Sri Lanka. EM ascertained from them their perceptions of the current situation and their ideas of how the way forward could be, and what more can be done by India to assist the Tamil community in Sri Lanka in terms of India's development assistance. As you perhaps are aware, just on October 2nd, we launched a major housing development project for 43,000 more houses. They were very appreciative of this project. They understood that this was an essential and vital contribution towards the infrastructure development of the northern province. There was also a discussion. EM himself reiterated that he had underlined in his discussion with the top leadership of Sri Lanka, and he's met, the last time was, I think, Foreign Minister Perez in New York. Prior to that, President Rajapaksa was here, and he underlined that India had expressed to the top leadership of Sri Lanka the concern among political parties in India, and this is not restricted to political parties only from Tamil Nadu, but across the board, the need for an early political solution in Sri Lanka, which would enable the Tamil community there to live a future with dignity, equality and self-respect. On their side, the delegation members welcomed India's sustained interest in assisting the Tamil community in Sri Lanka. They also explained their perspectives and hoped that India would continue to emphasize, to remain engaged in the political process relating to devolution in Sri Lanka. That's in a nutshell what they discussed for about an hour. After that, I think Mr. Sambandhan himself has spoken to the media about their perception, so I will add anything to that. Yes, ma'am. Smita.
This is a question on behalf of Geeta Mohan. UK government essentially was shying away from doing business investments with Gujarat post 2002. Now they've indicated that they're looking at normalization of ties. Would the MEA have any stand on that?
I mean, I don't know what normalization of ties means actually. So I'll have to look at what it is. Geeta did mention this to me, and we will just have a look before we respond to it, because this term needs to be understood what it is, what actually it means before I respond specifically to that. Yes, sir.
Sir, related to IOR-ARC, do all the members, including China, Iran, Japan, are going to send their representatives?
This is still some time away. I do not have a readout, but we expect representatives from all member states of the IOR-ARC to participate in this meeting, which is in the first week of November. We have several other diplomatic engagements prior to that, so I haven't focused on what you are asking, but we are pretty certain that all will be represented. Yes, ma'am.
This is about the Indo-Bangladesh agreements pending in the pipeline. We know that we were keen for the agreements, but it could not come about because there was some political opposition to it, and now the political situation has changed. The Trinamool Congress is not supporting the UPA anymore. So can we see some development on that front now? Some pace?
Yeah, I mean, our position has always been that we are in the process of trying to work out an internal consensus on this before we move forward. And I think that process still continues, irrespective of the detailed political position that you put out. Yes, Ranjit.
during Mr. Rogojin's visit, issues relating to nuclear reactor 3 and 4 and nuclear liability law will be discussed in Europe?
Mr. Rogozin is an important leader of Russia. He was here, if you remember, last time in July. And at that stage, these matters were raised. While these do not form part of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific, Technological and Cultural Cooperation, we do expect, as two important leaders during high-level meetings, they will always have issues to discuss, and we do expect this to be an issue of discussion between them, but not as part of the the Intergovernmental Commission. They will also have a bilateral meeting separately, and we expect that all issues, including this, which is an important issue of cooperation, will figure. Nice to see you ask the question after a long time.
Thank you very much. I was asking about the report. The story was published today in Indian Express. The two innocent Bangladesh citizens have been detained and they are in prison for a crime which they have not committed. So what is the real story? And they have also asked the Indian authorities to take appropriate action.
Yes, I can confirm that we have received a communication from the Bangladesh High Commission on this towards the end of September. We also have received some information from our High Commission in Dhaka. Based on the information that has been provided to us by both these High Commission of India in Dhaka and the High Commission of Bangladesh in New Delhi, we forwarded this information to the concerned authorities in India to ascertain the facts and to take further action based on the facts which they will ascertain whether what is being said is correct or what has come out in the story is the factual situation. So that's where we are on this matter at this stage, and we will keep you abreast once we hear from the concerned authorities about what their assessment of the facts in this case is. Yes, Sachin.
In the talks with Krishna, can you say anything about how the deadlock in talks
Yes, there was a fairly expansive discussion on the issue of the Parliamentary Select Committee and what they perceive is a way out. But you would appreciate that I can't share with them what they have shared with us in confidence. They are of course free to speak on their behalf. But yes, this issue did figure, and they explained their position on this. Yes.
So two questions if you could.
One. Always one.
Recently, both the Army and the Air Force chiefs have publicly expressed opposition to any kind of troop withdrawal from Siachen. Now, will this in any way affect the content of talks on Siachen with Pakistan?
You know, all inputs are assessed and all inputs are provided through the Defense Ministry on this. And as and when we prepare for the next round of talks, which is led by the Defense Secretary, I'm certain he will take into consideration all inputs within the defense establishment. This is for the Defense Secretary because he leads those talks. Well, all right. Yes, sir.
A report by Congressional Research Service has quoted Hillary Clinton as saying in July 2012 that the US government has given a waiver to Pakistan on supply on military and civil aid. This is with regard to two important reporting conditions which have been waived off. Have you taken up the matter with the US government?
If you would like to know that was this issue discussed at the last meeting between the two foreign ministers, my answer to that is that this was not the issue that was discussed at the last meeting in New York on the sidelines of the UNGA. Whether it will be discussed in the future, I will let you know once the outcome, when we have talks on this issue in a much more substantive manner. And should it figure, we always do provide you after the discussion, but never very well in advance, and you understand that. I think, yes, since I allowed him one extra question, we break the rule for once. Last question.
Yes, there's been a report that the Protocol reactors 3 and 4, they'll be, according to the 2010 liability law will apply. Could we request a confirmation? Has a decision been taken?
I think when this comes up for discussion, I can answer that question. At this stage, we are not privy to what is a matter between, according to that report, between the Ministry of Law and the Department of Atomic Energy. I think this is the wrong forum to address that question. It's a valid and legitimate question, but we only take it up should this come up as part of the discussion. So you'll have to wait at least till the 15th on that. Thank you very much.